Is the bonus material for CxO Bach and don't eat my soul food. So one of the worst things, and it happens quite a bit, is when the vendor asks a question, on a personal thing, trying to establish rapport, which is good, always good, establish rapport. But then there's this trait to sort of one up whatever the answer is. And you never want to do that. I don't care if it's a vendor relationship or any relationship, never one up someone else. I remember one time, I was in this new group and they were talking about some, share some athletic thing. And so immediately in my mind, I was going to share, some really cool athletic thing related to duathlon. And that person was before me, got up and shared how they did like their first triathlon, duathlon, and how that great that made them feel. So when it came around to me, I did not talk about my thing because in perspective, what I was doing is here, and what that person was doing is here. And if I would have shared that story, it would have made this person feel insignificant. Just not good form. So I found something else to talk about. In the vendor relationship, especially, you're trying to establish that rapport. That's the last thing you want to do is kind of squash someone's story, but it happens so often. So, I'll have a vendor come in and they'll ask me, like some of the examples I gave, whether it's the kids or even a scar. And it's like they have to tell a story that's better. And what it does is just makes that person that's just shared feel like, oh, um, I'm worthless. I'm not as valuable as that. Oh, that person's got a better story. You just is not needed. So I would really avoid it. So it's best just to, ask that question, establish a rapport, give an equivalent answer if there is an equivalent answer, and then move on. But all too often, you get this, hey, I'm better than you, and the conversation shuts down. But rather, if you were to take that same sort of conversation, about let's just use the trip. Hey, how was your vacation? What did you do? And the person says, oh, I really want to see the country. We saw a big sky country, went Montana. Don't start talking about your European exploit. But maybe if you want to really get tighter with that person, ask them some questions about it. Hey, well, what was the most amazing thing that you saw in Montana? I've never been there. What should I do if I went? What would you do differently on your next trip there, knowing what you know now? That will lead to rapport and relationship and all that kind of stuff. But when you like take it your own way, you've just shut that person down, and it makes for a real awkward situation. So really work hard to avoid that, and then be ready to go a couple different directions. So if there's nothing to talk about with kids or one of the other topics, be ready to switch to something else if there's nothing happening there. So that's the other thing is like, because I may not want to talk about it. So you may ask me about my kids, but let's just say my kids are in a really rough patch. I don't want to be telling you about my kids and they're in a real rough patch. So, if you ask a question as innocent as it may be, vacation, kids, whatever, and you sense that the person doesn't want to go there, then don't go there. But too often it's like sometimes I didn't really want to talk about my surgery, and the person like keeps prodding, about it, and then you're like you get sort of defensive and you get annoyed, and it doesn't bode well for the rest of the conversation. So use some emotional intelligence. And if you feel like, okay, there's nothing there, they clearly don't want to talk about it, don't keep pressing. So again, super simple message, but needed message. And that is to not steal someone else's soul food. So when they tell you a story that you've asked them about, don't try to one up them, and be very careful just to remain sort of neutral, genuine, but neutral, nothing like better to make them feel lower. And then the second principle was, well, really have more than one conversation ready, because if you run into a situation where they clearly don't want to talk about your topic, then be ready to shift a little bit before you go right into the business aspect of it. So that's it. Hey, if you want more information about Mark's Advisory and potentially working together, look me up, marksadvisory.com. you'll see a little bit more information about the services that I offer. And there's even an application. So check it out. If it sounds of interest, fill out the application and I'll review and get back to you. And let's see if we can't do something together to improve your experiences in the marketplace. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate the fact that you do.